Everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Raw Mango Story. And today on Raw Mango Story, today with us we have Amit. Amit has around 4 years of experience into front-end development with a startup. So welcome, Amit.
Hey,
Um, Amit, tell us something about your background as an educational background.
okay. I have basically done engineering in electronics, but when I was in my second year, I wasn't feeling like this is something I should be doing.
Okay.
So I started looking for things that actually interested me, and that's when I accidentally, like literally accidentally, discovered this beautiful world of JavaScript. And eventually, one thing led to another, and I started building a lot of websites, and I started connecting with a lot of people, and then here we are 5 years down the line. I'm working as a front end engineer, which is absolutely which is something that I did not graduate in. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's really fantastic, Amit. That okay, even though you started into electronics, which is completely different from what is taught to the CS and IT students, and you landed up where you wanted to, where when you discovered your interest. So tell me, Amit, how did you? I mean, initially start. What was the very first thing that you did? Probably, I mean, did you start connecting to people and asking them, what is it that you should be learning? Or did you, I mean, start reading from somewhere? How did you begin initially?
So what had actually happened with me was that I was a I would like to describe myself as a very curious person. So I want even today I want to learn new things, and I want to build new things. I want to solve problems. Okay,
That's
so
wonderful.
when I was in engineering, I realized that we aren't doing any of that. Like we are studying outdated syllabus, and like whatever, it's mostly just like you have to remember something, and you go into the examination and you just pour it out. Like no practical use case, nothing at all. And I wanted more of it, so I started connecting with my seniors to figure out like, am I feeling this way because I am at a very early stage of engineering, or is it how the things are usually? So
Okay.
I'm from West Bengal,
Okay.
so they told me like more or less it would be like that only. Like people are more focused on academics and theory, and practical is something that people don't take much seriously around here. So after second year I was having like this serious discontent, for whatever, anything that I was doing.
Hmm.
So I back then I didn't know that I was going to go into front end. Okay, so what I started doing was I started looking into a lot of domains, a lot of fields. If you think about it, like right now, the number of things, the number of
Hmm.
jobs, the number of domains that humanity has made up, it's tremendous. Like you might
Agreed.
not even know, that you might not even know, and your the calling of your life might lie in a domain that you have not even, you don't even know the name of that
Right.
domain, or something like that. Okay, so what I
And
started.
experience for almost every BTech student. Nobody knows, what they are up to. And I mean, I think almost there are a few exceptions, but 90% of them we can say feel like this. Yeah, please
Yeah,
continue.
unless let's say, adding to your point, unless you have gone into some premier institutes that do promote practicality over knowledge, like the IITs, or some other private institutes that are quite well known for their research and development purposes. Obviously people, when they
Hmm.
go in there, they're doing, they get more hands-on things. I mean that's the key, right? So what I so how it started with me was I wasn't particularly looking into development. As a matter of fact, I can recall I hated computer science. That's why I got into EC. The only reason I got into EC was I hated computer science, no other reason.
Okay.
So I was trying to do a lot of
Ironical.
things.
And then you ended up becoming a front end developer.
Life is full of ironies. So what I started doing was I was trying to do this thing. I was trying to explore various domains that was accessible to me. So I started off with the closest that I could. I started off with something which is closest to my core stream. I started learning circuit design and stuff, and then I like slowly went into robotics and all and everything. Like
Hmm.
it was good at first, but I didn't feel like if I kept on doing this 10 years down the line, how was I going to make an impact on this world, or how was I going to solve problems that could make some kind of difference in people's lives. And then eventually, like, one day, as I said, I hated programming, but I was in a like all exploration mode. So I thought like, so I had mostly worked with C and C++, and they are quite tough, I would say. Like,
Hmm.
they're like pretty difficult programming languages to
Hmm.
begin with. And then I like experienced this beautiful programming language called JavaScript. It
Comparatively
was
much easier.
right. It's easy to learn, and I think that language was written in order to build things. Like, the primary focus has been how fast can you get into developing things and getting it out there. And then I remember there was this website, that like tutorial sort of website, that I was working on, and then when I created my first web page, I mean that was it. That was love at first sight, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I started. And then, as I said, like, like communicating with others is very important. So I would often sit. So I stopped hanging out with EC seniors, and I started hanging out with CSE
Oh,
seniors.
interesting. Okay.
So fortunately, what happened was, like, I would often go up to them and I would show them, like, this is what I built, this is what I built. And like, they were like, quite nice people, even CS teachers. So there were certain CS teachers in my college, like, who liked me better than my EC teachers. Like, my EC teachers
Okay.
thought that he's skipping work, and that those teachers thought like, okay, like, this guy is better than our students. So
Okay. And you were quite proactive, I must say. A lot of us keep thinking about, okay, we are not liking a particular thing. Probably we want to do something, but we are not proactive enough to, take that first step and reach out to somebody for help. And a lot of people have a lot of inhibitions also in reaching out to people. But looking at, your story and hearing from you, I understand that, or a very important key takeaway could be that it's okay to reach out to people when you yourself are not sure of what to do, and probably reaching out to different people, talking to different people can help you, lit a path, or I mean, can guide you to into a direction, into a particular direction, which might be your future calling, or which is something that you might want to pursue in your future.
Yeah, agree. So absolutely, like, even I had this
Hmm.
mental bias. So I thought that I would be considered weak, or I would be considered like not having enough knowledge if I reached out for help. But
Hmm.
like, when I started overcoming it slowly, I realized that it was much more appreciated, that you actually came out to people and you asked them questions. Like, people love to answer questions.
Hmm.
They kept it. No, nobody thinks anything about you. Like, if you're stuck
Hmm.
somewhere or something, just find a person who can answer those questions, and ask them. Like, it's a like a very good advice, that something
Yeah.
someone can follow. Yes.
Yeah. So Amit, after starting out with all of this in your second year, we, have this option to go for internships in BTech third year and fourth year. Even you can go for it in first and second year also if you are that proactive. But most of the students go for the internships in third year or fourth year because the curriculum wants them to do so. You have marks for this practical thing and this internship section also. So, did you intern into a front end development related thing, or you didn't turn into your electrical and electronics related stuff?
So yeah, this is sort of like a very weird decision that I took. So in my when I was in my third year,
Hmm.
so what happened was, like, we had this. So our college used to conduct this cultural event, and what they would try to do is they would try to find like 3-4 people from the entire batch, and they would ask them to create the most like beautiful website that we can, because it's sort of, I remember, like, in between the colleges, this was sort of like a contest, that who would make the best website for the cultural fest. Okay,
Okay.
and I got picked into that, and
Oh,
and it was sort of an opportunity which I would not leave, like, no matter what. So I was so much engaged into it that I like sort of failed a few of my syllabus, like a few of my subjects in EC
okay.
and all. So that sort of kind of gave me so I had never failed in life. So I never failed in academics.
Hmm.
Okay. So and like, while like for somebody who has been doing exceedingly well in school, you have a sense of like, you have to keep doing well, you have to keep doing well, and at some point it becomes so obsessive that you are afraid of failing.
Agreed.
when I failed all
And
subjects,
you do
and
not know
suddenly
how to react for the first time. When you fail for the first time, you do not know how to react in that case, and you become depressed because you do not have the, tendency of accepting that failure. Yeah.
yeah, so that happened, and I failed in my sixth semester, and
Yeah.
from seventh semester the companies were about to come in,
which
and
is
so
which is completely normal also, because a lot of students are not paying, are like you, and are learning or pursuing something that they want to take into their future, and they are not paying attention to the subjects being taught in the college because they are not interesting to them, and hence they flunk. And but at that time when you do so, you become very demoralized. So the takeaway that we can take from your story is it's okay until and unless you are working on something substantially. Yeah, please go ahead.
so what happened was like, so since I failed in the sixth semester, I was not like eligible to sit in any of the campus placements.
Oh.
So fourth year is a very long time, and it's very depressing for a lot of people who don't get job.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So what had actually happened with me was, I saw that I have this opportunity, this 1 year of time where I do not have to study. So I got all in into development. And I was like, I thought like this could be a blessing in disguise, and I was enjoying it. I was enjoying it. So I was like studying as much of this like front end as I can and all. And so what I started to do, one thing was, so in colleges what you would see is that oftentimes your seniors or even your batchmates or somebody.
Hmm.
So what I was experiencing is that everybody wants to do some sort of startup, right?
Hmm.
So what I would do is I would enlist and tell them that I'm going to help you with this. You don't have to pay me anything, because I knew pretty much that like it's not very easy for a college student to start a startup and sustain it for 3 years and beyond.
Hmm.
Because it was the fact that I knew, but I was like, okay, this could be a chance where I can build skills which mattered.
Hmm.
Okay, so I started doing that, and then eventually, like one person, so there was a teacher based out of Ranchi, and like what happened was that he reached out to me and he told me that I'm planning on building an educational portal or something. So initially, like I started off with just helping him out with the things. Like I wasn't even in like in my fourth year, I wasn't even thinking about making money, or I wasn't even thinking about what's going to happen with my
And
career
at
and
this
all.
time you were in your fourth year.
I was in my fourth year.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's how it all started out. And then eventually this person offered me internship. Like this guy I started to help out with, and like he offered me like a 3 months internship, a paid internship. That was like a big
Okay.
thing. So I was like, now, but when this was happening, I was already in my eighth semester. Okay, so but still I was able to somehow like learn how to stay productive and juggle between things like your front end, like the projects
Yeah.
and college curriculum. So yeah, so I think that was the starting point. So that was the first place that I like officially worked, and obviously learned a lot. Like throughout the process, I learned a lot. Like just by helping people out and not thinking about money was the most important thing.
Yeah.
So most
Yeah.
would be like, I know a couple of I can write a couple of code, a couple of lines of code, and they would be like, okay, now you pay me for it. So I'm like, I mean, I have to learn. I have to learn. I have to master this craft. I have to like polish it as much as I can. So yeah, so that
Yeah.
was going on in my head.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So means if learn the skills, so what we've understood till now is reach out to people, learn and understand what you need to learn, and for being a part of whatever you, wherever you want to reach, and then do the stuff for people for free if you're not getting good opportunities. And startups usually, not to stereotype, but startups usually offer people internship. People learn a lot, but they do not pay initially until unless they see a very permanent role. What do you say? Until unless they see a very permanent streak that okay, you can work for them for 1.5 years, and that will be profitable, and you will be of some use to the company, and an asset to the company basically. Yeah. So taking you back to the learning process, Amit, what is the first, if I may ask, so what was the first online resource that you started learning JavaScript from? I know this can be a little tricky to learn, remember, but then what was the first resource that you started with? What was it, an online course, or did you start reading the theory? How did you do it?
So I remember there was this website called Dash General Assembly. So
Okay.
what happened was that, like, they would guide you. So the entire screen was divided into three panels. One would be like slides, which would tell you what to do. The other part you have to write the code, and the third part would be where you actually like see things happening. Okay, and like in that entire process, what they do is like they tell you to build your own portfolio website, and that is shareable. Like after you're done completing the course, you can take that link and you can share with people.
Hmm.
And like they can obviously like your friends can check it out. And I did not start like that because like my friends were thinking that, like, oh my god, this guy is so badass, he has his own website. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, this is cool, I want to do this even more.
Okay.
So yeah, so I started off with that, and then YouTube has been I'd say the number one platform for learning, like for me, and even like even till today, like I try to skill up, I try to wake up every single day trying to learn something like which I didn't know yesterday. So YouTube, I would say, has been like the go-to place. Like anything I don't know, I'll just go onto YouTube, and I don't even go to Google and type how to do this. I'll just go to YouTube and I'll type how to do this, and I'll see someone else doing it. And I think I figured out like way back that I am a visual learner. I learn by seeing things,
Hmm.
and like any sort of development which actually shows you how things happen has been something like which I can grasp and I can retain for long. So yeah, so I started off with that, and the third thing I would say, like, for people who are watching this video, so there's this excellent open source community called Free Code Camp.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and you can learn all kinds of programming there. Like, you can learn from basics of JavaScript, you can learn data visualization, and now they're even including, I think, courses on some high level topics as well. So it's a very comprehensive course. I mean, it takes time to finish it, but if you are able to make it, like, by that time, like I remember the front end development path was around 400 hours long, right? So it takes commitment. It takes commitment. So if you are able to, push it through that, I mean, the what come when you come out on the other end, you will not be the same person. So that's one thing, and plus the community is really good. As I said, like, you need to talk with people, you need to interact with people. Whenever you get stuck, you need to go out and seek help. And the free code camp has actually built something like that. I mean, so it was like quite helpful for me as well when I was starting out. And apart from that, what I did was I joined a lot of Facebook groups on front end development, and so and that was again like a very interesting place, because a lot of people would come in and they would try to post something new, some new technology or some new way to
Hmm.
do a thing. And all you do is just go ahead and read, and then suddenly, you read a blog 5 minutes and suddenly you know one new thing. And possibly sometimes that new thing can change your perspective, or of a problem that you might have been trying to solve like for last 1 week. I mean, it's amazing how like things work in this in this domain of development. So one thing leads to another and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But you just need to go out and start doing things, talk to a lot of people and just follow the path wherever it leads. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. So, okay, Amit, that was really insightful. And now, from a perspective of a developer who has around 4 years of experience, if you are to guide somebody who has no experience at all, is in their college or is a fresher and is just starting out, what would you tell them, other than the free code camp thing that you mentioned? Obviously, that is a very long one to complete in itself. 400 hours is a lot of time. So, what would you suggest them? What should be their initial steps to begin?
Sure. So I would say, so the three pillars of front end development are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now you need to have as good grip on these three things as you can. Okay, so I would say, let's say if you have a little time, like very less time, if you do not have time to go into some big lengthy process or courses, there are a lot of other platforms that can speed. So yeah, understand this thing. These three topics are not very difficult to learn. They're quite easy. As I said, the technologies of the web were built to help people build things fast. So you don't have to spend a lot of time on learning. A little bit, you spend a little time on learning, and then you can just go ahead and start building. Now, as you are building, you develop concepts. As you're building, you run into problems and you go out and then you find solutions to it, and then your understanding of those things, strengthen. You don't have to know the difficult concepts on day one. Okay, so that's first thing. Second thing would be, what you can do is that, once you have this bias removed, what you can do is you can go ahead and, again, there are places like Code Academy, and you can go on Udemy, and you can very easily find some great course that can teach you all the basics of it. Okay, so after you've acquired the basics, and meanwhile they'll be teaching you how to do a couple of projects. Okay, now after you have done this, you have the knowledge to build things. Now the next most important step is build, and I think if you have 100% of your time, you spend 50% in learn, in these two processes, and the remaining 50% dedicate to absolutely building. So what you can do is you can go out, and there are a lot of places where they'll give you ideas for beginner front end projects. You can start with a basic calculator, or anything that interests you. But having said that, following your natural curiosity is the best way to make sure that you stick with it. So when I started out, once I had acquired this basic knowledge, so instead of I was never interested in making a calculator or a weather. So what happened was, that's what was advised to me. But what happened was, I realized that there are platforms that I used every day of my life, and it made me wonder, how did they build it? So I went out to create a Facebook clone. After that was done, I went out to create an Instagram clone. So in that way, and get this thing, these things, that these platforms that I'm trying
Interesting.
to, very interesting, and they're very big, and the problems that you are going to face in here, they'll teach you a lot more than anything else. And the best part would be that, since you are naturally curious to this thing, you will not face much of a resistance when you hit a problem. So this is what I've seen. This is what has happened with me as well. When once you hit the problems, a lot of times people quit. They think, maybe this is not for me, or maybe I'm not talented enough. I mean, you would often hear people say that even the most experienced programmers make mistakes,
Yeah.
and that is how it is, and that is how it is. Okay, so
Um, Amit, I mean, when you're talking about resistance and quitting when you hit a problem or a question that you're not able to solve, and you reach a problem, say, for example, there is some error that you're not able to debug and you're not able to solve it in 5, 6 attempts and things like that. So, what are the key go-to places where you go and search for solutions?
So I think I'll say three places. I think my go-to places. The first thing would be, I'll try to search for answers on Stack Overflow.
Okay.
So when I was starting out, I used to encounter a lot more problems back then than I mean the time it took to solve problems. Okay, it's not that I'm not encountering, even today, every single day I'm encountering 10 things that I don't know. Okay, so back then, there was more gap to knowledge, that I didn't knew how to fix it. I could read the error, and like, that error never made sense to me. Okay, I don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Right. So back then, what I would do is, if oftentimes, you will find answers to most of the common problems on Stack Overflow. If you're able to find it, it's good. Otherwise, you can go ahead and start posting your own questions. Right, you post your own questions, and you just tag it with whatever, technology with which it relates to, and people often answer. People answer most of the time. Almost all of my problems got resolved, but it might take a little bit of time, so you have to be patient. I remember that there was this one problem I was trying to solve with a hybrid mobile application, and I didn't sleep for 3 days. I mean, it was so important to me to get this thing right. And on third day, I was totally breaking down. And on second day, I think I had posted a question on Stack Overflow. And on third day, I was like, okay, I cannot do this anymore. I just quit everything, and I went back to sleep. I woke up and suddenly there was an answer on Stack Overflow. I was like, okay, let me try this
And
again.
that worked for you.
And that worked for me, right?
Okay.
So I think that's something that happens it's like a everyday thing, in the life of a professional programmer. So you will have to, so it's something that you get acquainted with in the very early stage, where when you start building on your own,
Yeah.
right? Second place would be to go to GitHub. So what happens is, a lot of time, you're using certain libraries and stuff, and you get stuck. Like that library is suddenly throwing some error. You don't know how to fix it. I mean, you can fix your code, but how do you fix somebody else's code, right? So that's very difficult. So what you do is, like, any library that you're using, you just go to that page, and they have this issues section. You might try to search for your problem there, or you can post your own query, and most of the time it gets resolved. Uh, Third thing would be is, uh, so what I've seen is there's been a rise of a lot of bloggers. What they would do is, like, so there are certain very common problems that happens, like, so what they do is they try to, like, write a blog about those problems. So I mean, so what would happen is, if you just go ahead and search on Google, you would find often independent developers who had faced certain problems, and had written everything about it.
Yeah, why does it happen, and what's the solution? What are the steps to resolve? Yeah.
So that would be the third place to go. So basically, yeah, I think these three things pretty much has solved 95% of my problems most of the time. So
Okay. Okay. And now, Amit, when we've already talked about how to begin, and I mean, how to solve problems, and how to, get at pace with what is needed for a job, let's come to the topic of discussing how should the resume of a fresher or somebody who's just starting out in the field look like? I mean, key takeaways from you, like 2-3 things you should think these like should must be there. Without these, your resume does not seem genuine.
so get this thing. There's a so there are two domains. So there's front end development, and then there's full stack development. Now, what's the basic difference between them is, when you are a front end developer, you'll mostly be dealing with the technologies of the web. When you're a full stack developer, you will be dealing with technologies of the web as well as backend. Okay,
Hmm.
which has to do everything to do with the server and database and everything. And usually these days, what's happening is, like, like there's more advertisement towards and there's more resources actually to become a full stack developer. Okay, so let's say if you are going, so I'll start off with the front end, and then I'll tell you what to do in case of full stack. So let's say you are for going in for an interview for front end development. So as I said, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, they are the three pillars. Like, you have to master them. Okay, after you're done with that, again, this is one thing that I find very weird about the web, that there is no end to the amount of libraries and frameworks that various companies need, right? So there might be certain set of companies that work on Angular, and now there might be certain set of companies which work on React.js, right? The reason I mentioned these two is, like, the three things: React.js, Angular, and Vue.js. They are the most of popular frameworks that exist out there. Like, most of the companies use them. Okay, so if you can just get a basic hands-on on each one of them, that would be great. Okay, especially React.js, because I think even in these three, React.js stands at number one. Okay,
Hmm.
so after you've learned the basic, try to learn a few libraries. Try to learn, let's say, a CSS library like Tailwind CSS, or learn a JavaScript library like React.js. Okay, and then also try to learn how to make API calls, right? So basically, if you try to create a fully functional application after you are done with the basics, you will sort of touch all these points as well. Okay, so these are very important. Okay, so yeah, so after you've done that, and what one thing that I see that most people try to do is just to look really just so that just because it looks really good in the resume, so they would go ahead and they have done like a 20 minutes crash course or something, and they'll add it in the resume.
They've seen 2 videos and they'll add it that they are an experienced programmer and have a little bit of
Now,
knowledge. Yeah.
what happens is sometimes, that interviewer. Okay, now what happens is, let's say I'm taking an interview of a front-end developer today, and that developer has just saw a 1 hour video on GraphQL, another emerging technology, and he has just put it there. Okay, now I am looking for somebody who knows GraphQL, so that I can increase my the overall skill of my team. But let's say if no, somebody does not know it but is a good developer, it's okay. What I'll do is I'll hire him, and I'll put him on a I'll ask him to learn it, right?
Yeah.
But the moment I see you have put it on your resume, I'm going to start asking you questions about it, because there's something that I was in my subconscious looking for.
Okay.
So that kind of trouble people get into when they try to exaggerate what they know. Okay, so only put stuff that you know. Okay. Second thing would be projects. I mean, I have never been judged by my college marks till this date. Okay,
Okay.
because every time, even as a fresher, when I went in, I had, as I said, I was building a lot of things. I was building a quiz portal. I was building a social media clone. I was building blogs. I was building themes. So I had so much to put on my resume. And whenever you're putting something on the resume, some project, it's very important that you put the thought that went into building that project. I mean, nobody's interested in knowing that, let's say I built a Facebook clone. Okay, why did I, I built a Facebook clone using this is the technology. I mean, okay, it makes sense because those technologies are the only available technologies. Okay, but what's important is that, what are the problems that you faced while building? Okay, what is your reaction when you face a problem? Because get this, the life of a developer is something where problems is it's a part of the job. Okay, so how so you sort of, when you practice a lot, you develop this natural tendency to look at problems in a different way, in a curious way, in an excited way, that when you get to the end of this, you learn something new, right? So yeah, exactly. Again, so while you are at your resume, do put your skills, make them as visible as you can. And second thing would be, make your projects as visible as you can, because that is like very important, very important. And then obviously, since you're a fresher, you can go ahead and then you can write about other projects in the college that you have done, all the, because these are important things for freshers. Like this, if you have participated in extracurricular activities and all,
Hmm.
like these are something that recruiters are looking into. I mean, if you are somebody who can write like TikTok code, and then if somebody is very proactive, I mean that's a good candidate there, right? Because he will go ahead and learn stuff. Okay, and you put him into something else, and he would be able to do it. So it's more about
Sure.
understanding the psychology. It's more about understanding the psychology and cracking it.
Right.
So when you're putting your resume, play at your best and be honest. Okay, be honest about stuff, be honest about stuff you've done,
Hmm.
and put your strengths on the top always. So yeah.
Yeah. And do you think adding links to the projects that you've done during your college or during your internship also helps?
I forgot to mention, but not just helps. I think you should do it as
Yeah.
not even give a second thought to it. You add your GitHub links to it, and one important thing would be like learn Git. Git is something that is like used in every single company these days for project management. So learn Git, and after you've made your project, host it somewhere. Don't just keep it on your computer. Host it somewhere where you can share with people. Okay, and then share the links to those projects. I mean, this is something that I was doing, like when I was putting on my resume to people. I had a lot of links attached to it, and on top of that, what I would do is at the end of it, I would also attach my LinkedIn's ID, because I had to. So again, this is very a no-brainer that your resume should not be very long. Okay, you have to keep it under 2 pages. You have to keep it concise, right?
Hmm.
And if somebody, let's say, got really interested in your resume, right? Again, what I used to do was I used to give them a hook so that they can follow it even more. So I used to have all of my projects, every single thing I've done, on small, big, on my LinkedIn. So what I would do is I would add a footnote at the end, if you're more
Hmm.
interested in something, that you just follow on my LinkedIn. And when you go to my LinkedIn there, what I had done is what I had added all the live projects links. So from there also they can go ahead and they can see the stuff that I've built, right? But again, having said that, you have 20 projects. Don't try to put all of them. You can try to put like 3 or 4, whatever your best game goes. Like put your best foot forward. Yeah.
Okay. And like now moving on to the on-job requirements from a front-end developer. So how would you, I mean, if you are told to explain your job, as in from the practical point of view, how are you, I mean, given what is to be done, how do you get to know? How is the whole process like, basically, I'm trying to ask. How does a front-end developer start? How do you get the business requirements? Then what is it that you do next? And then how's the whole process like?
So, I'll tell you the process that I am currently following. So
Hmm.
what happens is, so there'll always be a team that will brainstorm, and they'll come up with the idea for the next release, that these are the things that would be good to put to our customers in the next release. And then it goes through to a design team, and like the design team now will be thinking on it, and then after that it comes to me, like or the entire front end team. Now one person's job is to take
So
that.
Amit, when you say it comes to me, what is it that comes to you? What are the deliverable? I mean, what do you say? The documents that you get as an input.
So basically what happens is you sort of get two documents. The first would be the design for what you're trying to build, and the second would be technical requirements of what is expected out of it. Okay, I mean, you could be given the design of button, but if nobody told you what happens on click of that button, it makes no sense. So those will be the two parts. Okay, the first part would be design, and the second part would be the functionality. Okay, so these two documents will be given to me or anybody else, like whoever has been chosen as a point of contact for this particular project. And what happens is, like, it is your job to take that problem and like break it down into small manageable things. Okay, let's say I'll give you an example. Let's say you have been given a task of building let's say Google search engine clone, right? So how you could basically break down a project like this is, okay, like, it has two pages. The first page would be the Google search page, and the second page would be the Google search results page. Okay, and now then you take these two of them and then you try to break them down into even further smaller things, and then you're like, okay, search page is pretty simple, it's just a page and there's a search bar there. But the results page is a little bit sophisticated because it has all these different type of cards. So what from second page, what is, okay, what I have to now, you have broken it down to, okay, I have to design cards, right? So you try to break it down into as much smaller chunks as you can. Okay. Now you go ahead and now you try to just get a bird's eye view of everything, and then try to figure out the things that you think might like act as a speed bump for you, like things that you might not know how to do it, right? And get it called out in the beginning of the project itself, because if you do, and that's very important, because again, it's your job to report back the estimated deadlines, like how much time you think it would take from development
Yeah.
perspective, right? And if you do
And
not
when you come
know
back one day before the deadline, that also does not leave a very good impression professionally. Yeah.
exactly, right? So you figure out the stuff that you do not know, and again, very important, like you have to know what you don't know, and you
Exactly.
figure out the
Exactly.
go ahead and you try to find a way to do it. Otherwise, what I do is I take it and I just put it in my team and I ask them if anybody has worked on it. So that sort of speeds up the process for me, because as I said, asking for help is something that you
That's
will
really
have to do
important. Yeah.
for life, right? So
And at times it also happens that maybe you may be banging your head into something for like 2 days and 3 days, and another person has just done that particular thing and he knows an easier way to probably get across that particular question or the point where you're stuck. So yeah, it's good to ask for help, and it speeds up, definitely speeds up a process to a greater extent.
so I think, yeah, and then you just go ahead and then and then you decide, like, you decide the priority of things. Now this is the third interesting part. The priority being, like, how do you choose to deliver things, which one goes in first, which one comes out first, stuff like that. Okay, so you decide the priority of things, and then obviously, like, now it's time to get your hands dirty, get on the code, get on the keyboard, break a few keys, get it done, and that's all. So enjoy the process. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. Like, okay. And my last question, Amit. So, which are the key portals, job search portals, that you would, recommend people to go on and try looking for jobs these days?
So I would say when I started out, so first figure out what kind of companies you want to work for. That's the most important part. After that, only you'll be able to decide where to go and look, where to look for a job. So I knew it back in college that I am a startup kid, that I do not want a 9 to 5 life. I'm not scared of working hard, but I needed a purpose. I needed to know what I'm doing solves a problem. It makes a difference. Okay, that was something that had always propelled me. Since I knew that I was going to go into startups, and also I figured out back then, like, when I started out. So there were two. There was one website actually, which was like quite famous back then for this. It was just starting out actually. It was called Angel List.
Yeah.
The
That's very
second
famous
website,
right now also. And it
right?
is very responsive also. I mean, the earliest, I mean, if say for example you've applied in at like today's morning, it may be possible that you get a response, your profile is selected or rejected in an hour or so also. It is that fast. Yeah.
So that's as you said, like that, because I'll tell you, I owe my entire career to AngelList. 3 companies I worked for, and 3 of them are found from AngelList.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think AngelList, I would say, it has always been the number one go-to platform for me. The second most interesting would have been, but it has for a fresher, it might not work out that well. But like let's say you've acquired a couple of years of experience, then LinkedIn is something like an indispensable tool. And even back when I started out, job searching in LinkedIn was used to be. But LinkedIn hadn't focused on the job search feature a lot, but today, like LinkedIn has came out as a full-fledged system for recruiters and people to apply for jobs. And the best part that I like about LinkedIn is that, let's say if you have taken LinkedIn Premium and let's say you're applying for a certain job. Now, most important thing is that whenever you're preparing for a job, how do I know where I lack? Okay, what we do is we always put everything we know onto the resume and we just hand it forward. And a lot of different jobs, a lot of different category of jobs might have a different set of skill requirements or a different set of requirements let's say even as a human being, right? And what I like about this LinkedIn is it can tell you where you lack. It can tell you, okay, this much percent of applicants of this job had this skill, and you lacked it this much and that much, so it tells you what you lack. So sorry, so you can go ahead and then you can prepare for them. That is the most important thing that I like about it. So I am more or less I've used it as a tool to measure where do I stand compared to other front end developers in the
Your
market,
competence in the field.
my competitors in the field. Exactly. So yeah, so second would be that. And the third one, which I have also found quite good, is a portal called Cut Short. Again, something for mostly startups. So yeah. And apart from that, let's say if you wanted to work for some MNC or something, you can always choose to go and apply on their portal, or try to find a reference, try to find somebody who can refer you. That always works. Okay. So yeah, so I mean these would be the most the steps that I usually take, and I would recommend others too. If at some level, if it helps you, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was all from my side, Amit. How can people reach out to you if they want, some help regarding for front-end development?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. As I said, I'm always looking for networking with people, and I'll be more than happy to help you out in whatever problems or queries that you have. So yeah, and if you are somebody with a little bit of experience or something, you can let's sit and let's talk. Let's just assess the depth of your skills, and maybe, as I said, startups are always hiring, so we might also uh, just find a good developer
Yeah.
that I can get into my team. Yeah.
Yeah. So Amit, that will be really helpful for the viewers. So like Amit said, anybody who has a little bit of background into front-end development, please reach out to Amit. He should be able to guide you. He should be able to review your resume. And if he feels that it is up to the mark or you have the right kind of skill sets, he could probably get you interviewed also for a position. So thank you so much, Amit, for joining us today. And thank you, viewers, for watching. Thank you so much for joining us on the Raw Mango story. I'm sure people who watch this would find it really interesting and insightful into what is actually needed when you're trying to approach for a front-end development job. I'll link Amit's LinkedIn handle below, and probably anyone who has any query that Amit could solve, people can reach out to Amit, and Amit would be happy to help. Amit, do you have to say anything? Last minute comments?
Last minute comments. So I would say that again, one of the things that I like to see in people who are pursuing front end is that curiosity. Now, why I think I consider it a very difficult domain, because if you get it, there are psychology says there are two kinds of people. There are left brained and then there are right brained. Left brained, right. So there are people who are logic oriented, and then there are people who are creative. Now,
Yeah.
this is that domain. This is that domain that literally requires you to use both parts of your brain. You
Blend
have
of
to be
both.
creative, right? You have to be creative, and at the same time, you have to be very logical as well. Like, it might seem daunting in the beginning, but as I said, if you've done it for a month or two, like you're just into this domain, and I mean, I have never seen anyone not enjoying the process. So enjoy the process. That's the most important thing. So if you have decided this is what you want to do, I mean, the jobs are there. People are always looking for good front end engineers. Even my company where I work for, we are also looking for good and talented, and most important, curious front end engineers who can be a part of the team. And that's what I know about every, like in startups, you see the recruitment process is never ending. Like, around the year they're hiring people, right? So there are jobs. Don't worry about getting a job. It's all about how much you are enjoying this process, and how much you are growing as a part of being a part of this process. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure hearing this from somebody who is into the field, that there are jobs, would like give a lot of hopes to a lot of people who are thinking there are no jobs during the pandemic times. Again, thank you so much, Amit, for joining us, and thank you, viewers, for watching this video. Thank you.